Hey, what's up? Welcome to the Drum for Jesus channel, where we use our spiritual gifts to glorify God. I have the Count It All Joy shirt on today, and I was just thinking about how we are called to be partakers in the suffering of Jesus Christ, and how difficult but also rewarding that can be. And then I was also thinking about how the Bible talks about, you can either suffer for unrighteousness' sake, or you can suffer for the sake of righteousness. And of course, it's blessed to suffer for the sake of righteousness, and it's extraordinarily painful to suffer for the sake of unrighteousness. So, yeah, how fervent we should be, especially if we're suffering, get the sin out of our life so we can have peace, knowing that we're suffering for righteousness' sake and not for unrighteousness. And who knows what God wants to do, and maybe we could be blocking because we're just not mature enough or spiritually ready. And I was thinking about this for myself too. Not just preaching without taking it to heart. It's like, where could I be doing better? What should I be doing better? What are just like even the mundane habits that I fall into that, where I might be coping or has some sort of escape mechanism, might not be inherently even sinful, but it's like, if taken to an extreme, it's one of the reasons why I'm here right now. It's like, I wanted to do something spiritually productive today. Just some things that are on my mind that I felt like sharing, but let's get into the drums. So. Today I want to talk about listening, and I want to talk about like being ready for what's coming next when you're playing with people. This lesson formed as I was working with a drummer and physically sitting in on the rehearsals as she was playing. And these were the sort of discussions that would come up. I noticed continually that there would be times where, the band would be in a verse, and then they'd switch to the chorus, and it would take her off guard. And it's like she would start the fill that should have been a bar earlier, like on the first bar of the chorus, and then sort of get tripped up. And then I think because she realized a mistake, then she's in her head. Then she's fumbling the time when she's coming out of the fill. And, then she'd get back on track and things would kind of start chugging along. And I just noticed by looking at her that she just wasn't physically prepared. She wasn't physically ready to make the transition. And, I had sat in with the band playing drums when I was just mentoring her before I even joined the band, because my intention was not to join. My intention was just to mentor her, to help her out, and then got, roped into joining after I played with them. But I noticed, like, okay, when I'm playing, like if I'm in a verse, playing here, and we're coming up to a transition, like let's say I go for the crash on beat one, then I'm listening. It's like, okay, I'm listening for, are we going into the chorus, or are we going to go back into the verse? Because I was just improvising these songs, right? And she noticed how like I would just sit down and play through a song that I'd never practiced and didn't even know, and was able to play along with everybody. And even though I wasn't going to be playing the drum parts on the album per se, I was following the form of the song with no issues. And that's because, like, literally, I would physically, boom, it's like, okay, we get to beat one. Let's say that's going to be a crash cymbal. And then, like, my stick is right here, and I am listening. It's like, oh, they're going to the chorus. Boom, okay. So now I'm over here. Oh, or boom, I hit it, and oh, they're back to the verse. Now, okay. Then I'm back to the hi-hats. And, it's that split-second decision, but I'm just with years of experience, I would suppose. Like I'm just physically in a position where I can go right or left. I could go either way depending on what I need to do. I'm not automatically just going back to the hi-hat, right? Or automatically going to the ride cymbal. I'm like in this no man's land in between. Crash. Oh, okay, we're over here. Crash. Oh, okay, we're over here, right? Crash. Oh, we're still here. And you know, when I'm saying crash, that would be like the beginning of a phrase. The beginning, so like either the beginning of the verse, beginning of like, maybe it goes verse 1, verse 2. So like then the beginning of the second verse is like, okay, I'm back. And I'm listening, and between that crash and then beat 2, I'm able to get enough information from the band to decide whether they're going to the chorus or back to a verse, or if there's a pre-chorus or whatever it might be, right? So yeah, that's absolutely a key, and it's something that is a physical thing, you know? It really is like, or, you know, you can catch the crash with the left hand too. Okay, we're over here. Right? I'm ready. Which way are we going? Which way are we going? Right? So just like ready. I'm ready to go either way. And then when it comes to listening to, and I think this just comes with experience, 2 years of experience in playing in subpar conditions where sometimes you could hear yourself, sometimes all you could hear was the guitar, sometimes all you could hear was, you know, the bass. Depending on the setup, sometimes you could barely hear the guitar and bass, all you could really hear was yourself. Sometimes you could hear the vocals, sometimes you couldn't, right? So being in these varying situations, just depending on what the monitor setup was, if there even were monitors, if we were outside, inside, how good the sound guy was, how much sound we had to set up and sound check, all this stuff, right? You'd get all sorts of different mixes, all sorts of different mixes of the instruments on the stage with you. And I learned how to play in all of those conditions, right? And I even learned how to play when I could not really even hear myself, because everything, being in a rock band, was like so loud around me. You know, I used to play with a guy who played with like double stacked amps, right? So 8 speakers on the stage just for the guitar. And then the bass player, he had a 6 rack. So, you know, 6, or it might have been 6 or 8. Like this thing stood, you know, about this high off the ground, and it put out so much sound. So yeah, I mean, there were times where like my drums would be mic'd, so they would be heard through the house, but I couldn't barely hear myself. So I learned how to play in situations where I couldn't hear myself. I learned how to play in situations where I couldn't hear them. Because maybe we were outside, their amps were like out in front of me or something. Like, yeah, that could happen too. And I think you just have to be like willing to power through, willing to do your best. You anchor into whatever you can. You listen for whatever you can. In an ideal situation, you can hear everybody, and you actually don't want to be making sure you're locking in with other people. You want to be able to feel when somebody's pulling on you or pushing on you, right? And you want to be able to hold that groove down. You know, you actually want to be aware of, oh, he's rushing this fill, or he's rushing this part. Like I really just need to like lay back and lay into the groove and anchor it and let him come back to me. Wasn't planning on sharing this, but I will. I played in a cover band where we would play to a click track, but I was the only one who could hear the click track. I'd have it in an in-ear monitor, right? This was the band I was just talking about further down the line. I was the only one who could hear the click track. Everybody knew that I was on the click track and the only one who could hear the click track. And then everyone was responsible to lock into me, right? And now I've adopted this with the worship band that I've been playing in. And it's been awesome. And it makes things so solid. It makes me the authority on the time. People aren't second guessing if I'm in the right place or not. They know if they're not locked into me, they're wrong, right? Which is nice. It just takes the ego out of timekeeping, and it takes the stress off me. Does it take a little bit of getting used to playing with a click track when you're the only one on it and everybody else isn't? Yeah, absolutely. But it's 100% worth it. It is less stressful to be in that situation than for me to be in a situation where nobody's on a click track. When I am on a click, I can just be free. I have so much more fun. I play better because I don't have to be like super focused on who's pulling on me, who's pushing on me. Are we speeding up? Are we at the right tempo? But even more experienced people too. Some of, they'll rush transitions, they'll rush certain things. They'll if the song's super slow, sometimes they'll drag even more. All this kind of stuff. I put myself on a click, boom, solves all of that. And then I think too, there's just like this piece when you're at the exact tempo that the song was written, and everybody is like hearing that and feeling that. They've been practicing it at that tempo, right? And all of a sudden you are like right there. Everybody just settles. And it's just like, oh, you can just have fun from that point. So that's something I'd recommend bringing up to your worship band. To me, that's like a non-negotiable these days. I'm going to be on a click track. If people don't want to do that, I'm going to lose interest pretty quick playing with said people. Gratefully, people that I'm with look up to me as a musician because I am the most experienced in the group. So when I make a suggestion like that, they go, let's try it. Let's see how it goes. They don't have a paradigm, a lot of them, to even consider what this is going to be like. It's like, it's a change, so it makes people nervous. It's like, let's try it. Let's see how it goes. And then, goes really well. The rehearsal went pretty well. It's like, how'd everybody feel about that? Everybody's like, yeah, I feel like that felt pretty good. We had 2 rehearsals before we actually went live with the click. And then we went live with the click, and then everybody was just like, that felt great afterwards, because it compensates for the adrenaline, it compensates for nerves. And then I got feedback from people that heard us play that day that was the tightest we sounded up until that point, was when I went down to a click, and I was like, I know why. So yeah, those are some tips. Listening is really important to know where you're at. But as a drummer, it's not so much locking in with everybody else as it is realizing when people have unlocked with you so you can hold it down where it's supposed to be. And that's great too. Like when things get shaky and you're on a click, you actually can kind of zone everybody else out and just make sure that you're solid with the click track. And then everybody will, like, pretty quick, right? Tighten right back up into you. And then you get to the point too where like you'll have these songs where everybody is so settled, so calm, that you're playing to the click. Nobody's pulling on you. Nobody's pushing on you. Everything is just solid, and your fills are solid, right? And you need to be practicing with the click too. Like you to me, like playing with the click is so easy. It's not a problem. I really enjoy it. I'm counting the subdivision if I'm doing difficult stuff. If it's like super slow and I'm worried about like locking into the click, I'm counting the subdivision to myself, like inwardly.
Got to cut in. Something just came to mind as I was listening back and editing this. That's very key, because if you do try to bring a click into the rehearsals, I want you to be in this mindset. If they really pull you off the click, where it's just like, I don't think I'm going to be able to get back onto this. Sometimes I'll sit there and see like if I can sort of edge my way back to it or not. Or sometimes just abandon the click entirely, which means either reaching over or turning it off. These days, because I'm playing in a church, I'm playing an electronic drum set. Um, it doesn't have to be super loud. Like if you're not using in-ears, I just use Apple AirPods. I use a metronome on my phone. But either way, I'd use a metronome on my phone and plug, my in-ears into my phone. Um, and then that's how I'm feeding into the click. So I'm just reaching over, and you got to be comfortable being able to, keep the beat going, reach over, turn the click off, or pop the in-ears just out of your ears. Realize, hey, you started at the right tempo, which is a plus. So if you have to then pop it out, because even if you're, you'll notice when you try to line up a click track, even if you're 1 beat per minute off or 2 beats per minute off, within not long, it starts to clash. It starts to clash pretty quickly. So it doesn't take a lot of faltering to all of a sudden be off the click. But this is something to learn in time. So just be prepared to reach over, turn that thing off, realize, hey, at least we started at the right tempo. That's a win. And we're just going to continue from here off the click track. Not a big deal. Don't make a big deal about it. They might realize when you, reached over and turned it off. Not a huge deal. It's just like, yeah, whatever. You could say the same thing I just said. Hey, at least you started at the right tempo. Not a huge deal. We just got a little off there, so I just turned it off. But yeah, we started at the right tempo, so it's all good. I think that should quell the issues, and then just move on forward.
So, hey, rejoice in your suffering, even if you brought it on yourself. And let's all recommit to the fundamental things. Make sure that we're ridding sin from our life, and we can have that confidence that we're suffering for the sake of righteousness, and count it all joy. In Jesus' name, thank you for tuning in. Hey, like, subscribe, share. If you don't support what you like, it goes away, as they say. I hate to be like that, but I do need to justify being able to put the time to upload these. I know this channel is new, but I do hope to see it grow so I can give you guys more content more often. Share this with a drummer friend. And as always, drum for Jesus.